Hello, my name is Pastor Kris Kollar. I'm the pastor of Pleasant Valley Lutheran Church near Malabar Farm State Park and St. Paul Lutheran Church in Lucas, Ohio. Greetings. We're reading through the Bible with commentary. We're in the book of Proverbs, and we're up to Proverbs chapter 17. Verses 1 through 9 are introductory, talk about wisdom as personified as a woman. Chapters 10 through 29 are the bulk of Proverbs, these little pithy sayings. And then we'll have two chapters at the end of Proverbs that kind of sum it up a little bit. A lot of these are contrast, wisdom, foolishness, righteousness, wickedness. And there's a couple of really famous Proverbs worth memorizing in today's chapter. Chapter 17, verse 1, better is a dry morsel with quiet than a house full of feasting with strife. So much better to be home and poor, or just have a morsel, than to have a bunch of strife. And so what if there's a feast if there's no peace? Verse 2, a slave who deals wisely will rule over a child who acts shamefully, and will share the inheritance as one of the family. So slaves back in the day, we don't have slaves, and I'm glad we don't. In Bible culture, oftentimes people did in fact own slaves, but a slave that was responsible and dealt wisely and would often then could inherit an inheritance and could be even given their freedom, and would be the idea that if you're a child and you're acting shamefully, then you're worse than a slave, which was actually the case that in the hierarchy of who had value, slaves and children were about the same level. They were at the bottom of the pecking order and were expected to bring the water and wash somebody's feet when they showed up at the door. Either a child or a slave would have to do that job. Verse 3, the crucible is for silver and the furnace is for gold, but the Lord tests the heart. So a crucible, a furnace, it is you take silver and whatever, because it's of course mixed with other metal or stone, and you heat it up and everything else burns off and it leaves the metal behind. So for the Lord to test the heart like a crucible for silver, it could be very painful and very hard. And if God is doing that to us, then though we end up hopefully purified. Verse 4, an evildoer listens to wicked lips, and a liar gives heed to a mischievous tongue. So back to speech and how bad that can be. Verse 5, those who mock the poor insult their maker. Those who are glad at calamity will not go unpunished. So if you insult the poor, you're insulting God who made the poor. And you should not be laughing at calamity, or be glad when calamity happens to somebody else. Calamity, we haven't used that word in a long time. When bad things happen to other people, we should not be glad about that. Verse 6, grandchildren are the crown of the aged, and the glory of children is their parents. Verse 7, fine speech is not becoming to a fool, still less is false speech to a ruler or a noble person, on that footnote. So if you're a noble person, a ruler, somebody in charge, you should not have false speech. It is not fitting. Verse 8, a bribe is like a magic stone in the eyes of those who give it. Wherever they turn, they prosper. So what is their secret magic trick? A bribe, and they use it to prosper, but you shouldn't do that. Verse 9, one who forgives an affront fosters friendship, but the one who dwells on disputes will alienate a friend. So friendships, any close relationship, whether friendship or family, the closer you are, the more likely you are to rub each other the wrong way. And yet, if we can forgive other people for being who they are, for being human, for rubbing us the wrong way, then we can foster our friendship and have a good relationship with them. If we dwell on a dispute and hang on to things and don't let go of them and don't forgive, that just destroys our relationships with other people. And he's like, well, why don't I have any friends? Well, are you forgiving and generous, or are you graspy and unforgiving? So Verse 10, a rebuke strikes deeper into a discerning person than 100 blows into a fool. So I was thinking about that today, when we are at work and somebody says, oh, you shouldn't do it this way, you should do it that way. Are we willing to receive that instruction? And if we hear it, then if we're discerning, we let that say, oh, I need to fix that, and then fix it. As opposed to a fool, you could beat them and they're not going to get any smarter. Verse 11, evil people seek only rebellion, but a cruel messenger will be sent against them. Oh, I sure hope so. Ooh, verse 12, better to meet a she-bear robbed of its cubs than to confront a fool immersed in folly. A she-bear. A mama bear. I don't know why. I guess probably they're trying to translate it from the original. But, mama bear, don't take a mama bear from its cubs. And it's better to meet that than a fool that's completely immersed in their folly. Verse 13, evil will not depart from the house of one who returns evil for good. So if you get something good and return evil for that, then evil will be coming to your house. It sounds like it would, because you're bringing it on yourself. Verse 14, the beginning of strife is like letting out water. So stop before the quarrel breaks out. So letting out water. Letting out water from where? But, once you try to let water out, it's very hard to stop once it starts. Kind of the idea like a dam bursting. If it starts going, then it's going to all go. So beginning of strife, stop before the quarrel breaks out. Don't let it come to the point of a quarrel. Verse 15, one who justifies the wicked and one who condemns the righteous are both alike an abomination to the Lord. So don't justify somebody who's wicked and don't condemn someone who's righteous. The Lord doesn't like either one of those. I'm thinking I should have titled this session more about speech and about quarrels and strife and gentle answers, because that is a lot of what this psalm is. I keep saying psalm. Proverb, that's a lot of what this proverb seems to be about. Verse 16, why should fools have a price in hand to buy wisdom when they have no mind to learn? So they might say, I want to get wise, but then they don't want to get wise, and they don't work at learning. Verse 17, a friend loves at all times, and kinsfolk are born to share adversity. So I love that proverb. A friend loves at all times. So you know that somebody's really a friend if you can call them at 3 o'clock in the morning, and you know that they're not going to get mad at you for calling you at 3 o'clock in the morning. They're going to get mad at you if you don't call them at 3 o'clock in the morning. And a friend is a true friend when you're going through a hard time and they're like, yeah, I need to come. I need to be there. I need to do what I need to do to help you. And same for kinsfolk, is how they have it in here, kinsfolk, born to share adversity. When terrible things happen, who do we lean on? Our kin, our family, and our very, very closest friends. And in some ways, it doesn't matter whether you like your siblings, your cousins, whoever your kin, your family is. Sometimes it doesn't matter whether you like them or not. When something happens, you are the one that gets called. Or I am. We all are. Each one of us is the one who gets called, because that's family, and that's what family does. And as a hospice chaplain, sometimes people have to find someone who's going to take care of them, and they hate to ask their family to come take care of them. But the family says, oh, I'm going to come and I'm going to take care of this person because we're family, and this is what you do, is you take care. The kinsfolk are born to share adversity. That's what we're there for. Whether we like each other or not, we're built in to take care of each other, and it is, in fact, a beautiful thing. Verse 18, it is senseless to give a pledge to become surety for a neighbor. What is surety for a neighbor? That means like co-signing a loan, that somebody else's credit that you are signing for that loan, then if they don't pay that debt that they owe, it comes back on you. So It is senseless to give a pledge and to be surety for a neighbor. It is, the modern translation would be, is it's senseless to co-sign a loan for somebody. And it is not something we should do often. My mother did it for me when I had my very first ever loan as a late teens, early 20s, got my first car loan. But oh my goodness, was my mother on my case that I had better pay that loan or I was in deep, deep trouble, because she had put her credit on the line for me. And I'm old enough that that was back long enough ago that it was kind of a big deal for women to have credit at all. We could have credit by that time, but it was still a relatively new thing when I was in my early 20s. Which is just an amazing thing to consider, that there are women alive today that when they were in their early 20s couldn't get credit unless a man signed with them. How awful. Verse 19, one who loves transgression loves strife. One who builds a high threshold invites broken bones. A high threshold. So that's who builds a high threshold? The idea that you're going to have something that you have to step over to get into the house, and you're just inviting people to trip and fall and break bones. But then I guess you could also take that as a metaphor, a high threshold of what you have to do to be in with somebody, to be friends with somebody. Why would you do that? Verse 20, the crooked of mind do not prosper, and the perverse of tongue fall into calamity. And sometimes we sure wish that was the case, that somebody who's crooked and perverse would have all kinds of terrible trouble. And I think they do eventually, but sometimes they sure seem like they're doing good for a while. Verse 21, the one who begets a fool gets trouble. The parent of a fool has no joy. Happily, neither one of my children, I would not consider either one of them to be a fool. How heartbreaking that would be. I do think they're very young and not very motivated, but they're not stupid. They're not foolish. And they're willing to hear suggestions. I try not to be too critical and push them too hard, but they're good. Both of my kids are good kids. And here's what I named this session after 17, verse 22, a cheerful heart is good medicine. And I think that is one worth memorizing and quoting and telling yourself, a cheerful heart is good medicine. And there's a second half to it, but a downcast spirit dries up the bones. And again, as a hospice chaplain, some people are very downcast and it just really affects their health. And other people, even though they're on hospice, they're still cheerful because it is their nature to be cheerful. And those people last longer and live better. To say that it's good medicine, I would 100% agree that people who are determined to be healthy and determined to be cheerful literally, physically do better because of that. So a cheerful heart is good medicine, but a downcast spirit dries up the bones. Verse 23, the wicked accept a concealed bribe to pervert the ways of justice. Verse 24, the discerning person looks to wisdom, but the eyes of a fool to the ends of the earth. So we look for wisdom, we look for what's right and what's good, rather than looking for every other thing. Verse 25. Foolish children are a grief to their father, and bitterness to her who bore them. So agreeing with the one above it, that foolish children are painful to their parents. And isn't that true? I think we've all heard of kids that made young adults who made terrible choices, and it's just heartbreaking for the parents who want their kids to do well and succeed and at least be happy and employed and doing okay in life, and not making really terrible choices about companions or getting into drugs or alcohol or terrible illegal things. We want our kids to do well and be happy and successful, and whatever successful means for our kids. And it's just heartbreaking when our kids make bad choices. 26. To impose a fine on the innocent is not right, or to flog the noble for their integrity. So don't fine the innocent and don't flog the nobles when they're being truthful and good. Verse 27. One who spares words is knowledgeable. One who is cool in spirit has understanding. I'm not sure what that means, to be cool in spirit, but spares words. And as a person who loves words, it's always a little bit convicting to read ones like that. But it's true. The more I talk, the more likely I am to get myself in trouble. And certainly we've all met people that talk too much. And I know of a person who's like, I'm just 2 words away from offending somebody. And the more we talk, the more likely we are to offend somebody. And I am absolutely at risk sitting here on YouTube and talking a lot and putting myself out there. It's to spare words. And certainly as a chaplain, I try very hard to not talk and to listen and to be there to listen to people and not talk. But then it fits right into the next verse, 28. Even fools who keep silent are considered wise. When they close their lips, they are deemed intelligent. So refraining from talking too much, from being quiet, to choose to listen to somebody is actually a humongous gift. And one of the best things that we do as chaplains is to come in and to listen to people and to hear stories. And sometimes I have people that are complaining and they're tired and frustrated and they just want to get it off their chest. And then they're so apologetic. Oh, you shouldn't have to listen to all this. I was like, it's literally my job as chaplain, and I love doing it. It is such a privilege. When I'm on these videos, that's all I do is talk, because that's what these videos are. But when I'm a chaplain, I try so hard to listen, and I get to hear the most amazing stories, and I get to help people just get things off their chest and get it all out of their system and process through emotions and what they're thinking, and it's just really amazing. So listening to somebody else, one of the hugest gifts that any one of us can give to another person, to truly focus on what they're saying, not try to correct them, not try to interrupt them, not try to take the story away from them and tell our story, but to just hear the person's story. Today I got to meet a patient, and the patient told me about when he was a child, and they would hear the coal train coming, and when the train loaded with coal train was coming, they could hear it. It had a specific sound, and they would drop everything and they would run down and they would climb up to this thing where they could climb up and jump onto the moving train, push the coal over to the edge of the car, and when it got to a specific spot, push the coal off onto the ground, and then jump down and take the coal and put it in onion bags and take it up so that they wouldn't freeze to death. And they were very young and very poor. And they said, and the people that were getting the coal, ordering entire carloads full of coal, would never miss the little bit that they pushed off the edge and carried up the hill so that they would not freeze to death. And it's amazing the stories we can hear when we take the time to listen to people. And now may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord look at you with favor and give you peace, and help you today to be a good listener. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Go in peace. Like, subscribe, and comment. We'll see you again next time. Thank you so much for being here.